Hello everybody again, this is Ethan Zimler with Bloomberg New Energy Finance, and I'm privileged now to be joined by the mayor of Reykjavik, Dagur Eggertsson, and welcome, and thanks for joining us. Tell me a little bit about why you're here.
Well, I'm here because of climate change and the increasing focus and knowledge about the city's responsibility, both as part of the problem. Cities are the place that emission is, that create most emission, but also the place where solutions are created. That's at least my opinion, and so I think this focus on cities and non-state actors here in Paris is very important, not just for the Paris summit, but for the aftermath. If we're going to get this work done, you need to engage citizens, you need to engage the business community, corporations, and cities are often in much closer cooperation with both than national governments.
Although tell me, in Iceland, what percentage of the population lives in your city?
Well, in the Reykjavik area, we have about 80%.
Right, so your policies basically are almost national policies in some way.
And if you add kind of the neighboring municipalities, a lot of the economic activity and transportation, etc., are going on in that area.
So now Reykjavik is really an interesting place in terms of renewable energy. Maybe fill people in a little bit on some of the unique circumstances and opportunities that you've been able to take advantage of there in terms of geothermal.
For Reykjavik, as for Iceland in general, all energy that we create, electricity, is non-carbon. So it's hydropower, 100%, hydro and geothermal. And interestingly enough, it was after the oil crisis of the 70s that Reykjavik took kind of the last steps towards connecting all homes and businesses to a central heating system.
But how was it started though, 100 years ago? What was it that,
Well, the first part of the name Reykja means smoke. And that was because in the area you have geothermal pools, warm water that gives you the smoke, and that was used for central heating. So literally within the city we have drilled holes
where we get steam that comes straight up out of the ground and you can use to heat your house.
And then we've scaled it up in the last decades. But it's a part of that. It's an island that is active with active volcanoes.
Right.
So we have a lot of hot spots.
Right.
In the old sense.
Got it. I'm sure. It's also a very wired community. I'm sure as well.
It is.
Do you, in terms of power generation, though, how does geothermal also provide electricity?
Yes, that's electricity has been used the last 30 years, 40 years for electricity as well. But we mainly were drilling for the hot water, but the warm steam, it's hundreds of degrees Celsius, the heat is used to create electricity with turbines. So.
And is that, when you say that is it Reykjavik or the entire country of Iceland is 100% zero carbon energy, is it mostly geothermal or mostly large hydro, or are there other technologies?
It's split.
Any wind as well?
The geothermal has been growing a lot, but a considerable part is hydro as well. But we have to remember that we import a lot of oil for our cars,
Right.
etc. as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our big task.
Yeah, I
is
was going to say. So, what are you thinking about transport? How do you address that on a part? If that's where your emissions footprint is these days,
Yes,
right?
and as many cities that developed enormously in the 50s and 60s, we have a city that is designed almost for the private car. So that's a big struggle.
Yeah.
And that's where we can learn a lot from other cities, both in Scandinavia, Europe, the US, and
Geographically,
elsewhere.
it's a small country, right? So does
It
that
is.
not create opportunities for electric vehicles, since you don't actually need to have? I mean, I don't know.
It does.
What's a typical commute, let's say, for someone in?
Within the Reykjavik area,
Yeah.
You could survive totally just with electric cars, and we are
Which
setting up.
these days, an electric car has about a 80-mile range typically, right, for a Nissan Leaf or any
and we're
of
setting
those.
up the infrastructure for that,
Yeah.
so you can fast plug in
really?
and get electricity fast at certain points within the city.
Yeah.
But we need to be better on public transport, and we are doing that and planning for that. And we see this as kind of the big challenge for Reykjavik in the years to come.
At the end of the day, Iceland is an island country, right? What are the sort of energy security concerns, or if you are still relying on importing oil, what are the I mean, I presume that's one of the motivations for wanting to move to electricity or other sources of generation. Well, generation, but we've already done that, but on the transport side, fuel.
Well, to head for a non-fossil use community or a country, we would. Then we would just use kind of the national product, which is clean electricity.
Right.
And so the electric car and the use of electricity in transport is of high interest to all of us. But as well, all sorts of industries that use electricity. We are focusing on green industries and creative industries and tourism. Tourism is booming in Reykjavik.
Yeah.
So the economy is growing faster than many places in Europe now. But that's also a task to do that in a sustainable way. So we kind of give back the city and the country to the younger generations in better shape.
Here's the question, though. So you have this bounty of renewable, resource, and it's an island country, so you have all this motivation to do things to displace fossil generation. What lessons, though, can other cities learn from you, given how unique your city is in terms of the circumstances?
I think that some cities could use more geothermal, actually. There are a number of places that have rich areas, both in Eastern Europe, in Africa, and parts of Asia. We learned a lot from California, actually,
Really?
both what they did and the mistakes they did in the 70s when it comes to geothermal. So I think a lot of this, as with any other task in the climate and climate issues, is about sharing of solutions and knowledge. And I think that most of the things we have done are ideas someone else came up with, and we are using in our context. So it's about sharing and stealing good ideas.
Great. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, learning a little bit more about Reykjavik and the interesting things you're doing, and I hope to come visit there someday.
Thank you. You're welcome.
It's my pleasure. So it's been my pleasure to host Mayor Eggertsson of Reykjavik, and thanks again. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.